You go.
Good evening, and welcome to the Rebellion News. I am Jedi Master Theron Zane.
And I'm Sith Lord Ezio Anonymid.
And tonight we are talking about a few topics: EA, the new Solo movie, and what they've got in the works with Boba Fett. Our first topic: if Disney is the evil empire, then EA is clearly the Yuuzhan Vong.
Sure, they have all sorts of money, massive amounts of staff, but when they produce things, you don't feel anything. They are an absence in the Force, and all they want to do is destroy all life in the galaxy.
So, in recent news, a developer from EA, well, someone developing the game,
reportedly, this person, this source of this news, is a Reddit poster who had a personal message back and forth with this employee at EA. And what this employee had to say was very interesting, and they had some interesting things to back up their credibility.
Part of their credibility was an unreleased image of Princess Leia in her bounty hunter suit from Episode 6, which was later then confirmed by EA itself on the post.
Now, what did this person have to say about the inner workings of EA, DICE, and what's going on with Star Wars Battlefront 2?
Now, it was only a year ago that Battlefront 2 was first released, and it's reported that what they're doing with it so far, the loot box system is supposed to be removed, is it?
Entirely. Disney, months ago, announced that they would be removing all loot boxes other than, what do you call them?
Cosmetics?
Cosmetics, yes.
So they change skins and make the game look better.
Yes, and that the entire progress system was going to be reworked so that you didn't have to grind for hours and hours and hours and hours to get loot boxes that might help you upgrade your characters. This they did in response to multiple levels of government, both national and state level, launching probes into the loot box systems, and many European countries announcing that these loot box systems are illegal forms of gambling. So EA, only under immense international pressure, agreed to remove their loot box system and rework their progress system. But according to this Reddit poster, they aren't going to rework that.
Yeah, they're completely leaving it alone. From what the poster has given us, that there are bugs in the game that have been there since the beta, since before the game was even released, that are still there that they have not taken care of. There are other bugs that are too big for the young DICE team, who has been left all alone by these other companies to deal with the development of the game. And they are so young and inexperienced that they don't know how to deal with the bugs, and most of them are going to be swept under the rug without a care in the world. Now, EA, what are you doing? But we play video games ourselves. Many people in the Star Wars community are gamers. But a company like EA, how many good EA games have you played?
Medal of Honor Allied Assault from 2002?
That's a pretty long time ago.
Yeah, I don't remember the last good EA game. I mean, maybe was Dragon Age Inquisition co-developed by EA?
I believe it was mainly a BioWare game.
Yeah.
Which BioWare, they know what they're doing. They know how to make some good games. But when EA gets involved...
Yeah, they go bad. And, I mean, the idea that Disney decided to buy out LucasArts, what are they thinking? When has Disney ever managed one of their intellectual properties in a video game aspect that has been even remotely a success?
The only video game involving Disney that's ever had any sort of success has been Kingdom Hearts, and that was a game developed by Square Enix in Japan. So clearly Disney doesn't know what they're doing. I mean, let's see, the last Disney game I actually played? Let's see, I think it was the Toy Story Activity Center back in the 90s.
Wow. The last Disney video game I remember being published was Up, the game. And I don't know about you, but do you remember anything?
I never played it. I
never played it.
And it was like...
I didn't watch it. I just remember it coming out and going, boy, that looks like a crappy game. And Disney, what are you doing? Why did you buy out LucasArts?
Disney has no business in buying a video game company.
Disney should have left LucasArts to continue developing games instead of saying, I really need all the control of the intellectual property of Star Wars. So we're going to buy LucasArts and give it to EA, who's the voted worst company in America multiple years running, because we want pure control. I'm the Disney mouse. I have pure control.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with that statement. Alright. Let's see, have we forgotten anything? No, I don't think so. So EA is totally abandoning Battlefront 2, and DICE is busy working on Battlefield 2018.
Where does Star Wars Battlefront 2 go from here?
Probably nowhere.
Flush.
Alright, our second topic of the day. This new Solo movie. While Rotten Tomatoes has given it an excellent rating, unfortunately the opening weekend has not done very well. Why, you may ask? Who was out there actually saying, you know what would be a really great idea? A Han Solo movie! That'd be awesome! Who said that?
Disney said that.
Yes, they did. And they were the only ones who said it.
Nobody in the history of the Star Wars universe, except for some very uncomfortably obsessed fans who are disturbingly obsessed with Han Solo, wanted a Han Solo movie. Han Solo is not a character that was interesting until he met Luke and Leia and joined the rebellion. He was a scummy guy who did scummy things and only cared about himself.
Yes.
But hey, let's make a movie about it, because it's Han Solo.
It's Star Wars. And remember Star Wars?
You loved it as a kid, and so we're going to make as much of it as you can handle.
As much as you can handle.
Just shove it down your throat and take it. You'll love it and buy our toys.
As far as the movie is concerned, though, the big topic of controversy since its release is Lando's sexuality. The rumor come out.
Does Lando Calrissian is gay?
What? In a report, the movie, Donald Glover, the man who plays Lando, as well as the executive producers, decided we should have Lando Calrissian be pansexual. In a quote from Donald Glover, how could you not be pansexual in space?
Disney is pumping the water full of chemicals to turning our Calrissians gay. They're an evil empire. They're turning our guys gay. I don't care if they're gay people in Star Wars. I just want them to be consistent.
And that's the big problem with these movies. The actors, are they doing enough to research their roles? Because in the original trilogy, Lando Calrissian was portrayed as the ladies' man.
A consummate ladies' man.
As well as in the video games, and in the novels, and in the comic books. So there's over 40 years worth of references for these actors to go off of, and yet, at the drop of a hat, the new actors are coming in and saying, you know what? I don't like the way this character is portrayed. I'm going to do it differently.
And there's an idea that somehow, because, as Donald Glover said it, how can you not be pan in space? The Earth is in space? We're in space? Are we all pansexual?
I don't think so.
I don't think pansexuality works that way.
Oh.
But, nonetheless, is it true? I mean, he seems to have some kind of romance with a robot who is a female robot, so that would be, I guess, interspecies, but he's still into women.
I believe the correct term is robosexuals.
Yes. So, Lando Calrissian seems to be robosexual in addition to being heterosexual. So he's a robo-heterosexual Mr. Roboto.
Awesome. So, with this topic of are the actors researching enough, we go to the one actor who's come out within the last 20-something years, who has not only done research into the role of the character, but also into the role of the actor who played the character before him. We, of course, are talking none other than the most beloved
Ewan McGregor.
Love that guy.
What an amazing actor.
Not only nailed Obi-Wan Kenobi, but nailed Alec Guinness.
Exactly. He watched dozens of hours of Alec Guinness movies. He watched Star Wars over and over and over again. The parts which had Alec Guinness, and he mastered Alec Guinness. He was the brightest star in the prequel trilogy. There has never been a person who has said a negative thing about Ewan McGregor's performance in the prequels. Everyone loved it. And if they didn't love it, they're wrong.
It flows seamlessly into the second trilogy.
Exactly. And that's the kind of research that we want to be done on these characters when actors come in and are playing younger versions of them. They should have everything nailed about their character, the way they act, the way they hold themselves.
If a character is pan or bi or whatever, there's no problem with that. But if the character has already been pre-established years before as being one way, that just goes to show how much the creators who are currently working with Star Wars do not care.
Yeah, they are taking an intellectual property that, as we have said, has been established for decades, and they are shoehorning their own political agenda into that subject. I don't care if there are any gay or pansexual or whatever you want in there, but don't take characters who have already been established one way and then edit them and say they don't fit our narrative, our political views. So what we're going to do, we're going to change them to fit our views. That just does not work. That pisses off fans. That is disingenuous to the intellectual property, and like you said, just shows the amount of disrespect that they have for the Star Wars universe.
Speaking of new movies in Star Wars, Boba Fett has been announced as in the works, with a director from the Logan movie,
John Mangold.
I think it's James.
James,
John, Peter, all three of them, why not?
why not? So what do we make of this announcement?
I'm very concerned. As a Star Wars aficionado, my main source of knowledge that I've researched for stories that I've been writing in my own personal time has been with the Mandalorian race and culture, which was created amazingly by author Karen Travis. Awesome job, love your work. Not only created the culture, but created the language of the Mandalorians. And the reason I'm concerned with this is because so far, like we've been talking about, Disney has shown that it does not care about what other creators have made in the first place and established as canon for the lore.
Yes, and one thing that has stuck out about the Mandalorian culture is that it is not politically correct. with
nope.
the way that Disney and the creators of their movies have been moving forward. The Mandalorians have a pretty, how would you say it,
There's
traditional society in terms of gender roles.
For the most part, gender roles. In the Mandalorian culture are considered to be on an equal level. Because while the women tend to take care of the homes and the training of the children, they're also kick-ass women who go out and fight wars with their husbands if they do not have children at home to take care of. So the roles of parenting for both sides are so important that to be considered a bad parent is like the worst insult you could ever receive as a Mandalorian. Like being divorced by your children is like so much dishonor. Dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow, dishonor everywhere. But is Disney going to care about that? Is Disney going to care about such an interesting culture that other people have created?
No.
Probably not.
Disney doesn't seem to care at all about any of the Star Wars universe except for as far as it can make them money. Store shelves have been flooded with Star Wars merchandise to the point that it just dominates everything. And the thing is, it's not flying off the shelves.
It's not in demand.
They just have so much of it, nobody cares. Collectors collect things that are unique and,
hard to find.
But there's so many of them that it makes them valueless. And it shows really what Disney's priorities are. They want, as we've said, pure control over the intellectual property and where it goes, to the point that they'll buy the video game section of LucasArts.
Even though they have no idea how to run a video game company.
And run it into the ground. Just so that way they can have control over the intellectual property. They don't care about established characters and how they interact with the universe. And they just don't care what fans want. So how are we supposed to sit here and think, boy, the Boba Fett movie, you know what? They're going to cast Jango Fett. Or better, they'll cast the kid who played Boba Fett in the prequels.
He's old enough to be Boba Fett now.
And he looks exactly like Boba Fett would have looked had he grown up. I mean, he did grow up, but that's another
topic for something else.
So, does Disney give a crap?
No. And the problem with this is, the second that Star Wars becomes unsuccessful for them, where they cannot cover their losses for making all these things, it will join Disney's mass graveyard of unsuccessful films and properties in their underground mausoleum.
Movies like Treasure Planet, Atlantis, Black Cauldron.
Great movies, wonderful stories that did not make Disney enough money.
And so what do they do with them? They take those and they say, well, we're gonna shove that in here, lock the key, and we're gonna break it. You eat that half and I'll eat this half. Tastes bitter.
We don't want this to happen to our Star Wars.
And by all accounts, that might be what happens. EA has basically abandoned Battlefront 2. How quickly did they abandon Battlefront 1? I mean, it wasn't even cold in the ground when they abandoned it. And the same thing can be said of Battlefront 2. They're just going to abandon it. And Disney has done the same thing in the past. If something isn't a commercial success, a blowout success, they just draft
out the window with it.
So, in summation, the rebellion lives on. How long the Star Wars intellectual property will live on,
The future is unclear. We hope that it can continue to live, but we want it to live by the fans. The ones who care about the property enough to want something amazing to come out of it every time.
Exactly. And with that, we bid you goodnight from the Rebellion News.
Later tonight at 9 o'clock, Rancor pit fights and why they are still legal on Tatooine. More on the subject tonight at 9.